Can anyone else hear?
I cannot hear him. He must be muted and doesn't know it.
Sorry. Okay, hopefully now you can hear me. Question number 5. Why would somebody hold they can't charge rent for a house in Yerushalayim? 1, because people are coming to do a mitzvah, so you can't charge them. 2, because they don't belong to the owner. 3, because they belong to Shevet Binyamin. 4, because they belong to Shevet Yehuda.
Because they don't belong to the owner.
Right, Yerushalayim divide is belonging to all Jews equally. If somebody sold a shul with the approval of the town, because they don't belong to the owner. If somebody sold a shul with the approval of the town elders and the council of the city, what can you do with the money? You could buy a Sefer Torah, you could buy another shul, you could do whatever you want with the money, or you could do whatever the town council wants, obviously besides four things, like a bathhouse, etc.
Buy another shul?
I would say whatever you want, but you say buy another shul, okay?
That's because you're getting the money from the town council, so it changes the.
When could you break down the old shul building? You never break it down when the plans are in place for a new one, when the new one is being built, or when the new one is finished.
Okay, when the plans are.
D.
B, you're saying B, when the plans are in place for the new one?
D.
Oh, D, when the new one is completed. Okay. Hopefully we'll see what the answer is at the end. What is an example of tashmishe mitzvah? An article used for a mitzvah. It's like besamim, right? That you use. It's not kedusha. You don't have to put it into geniza after. When you throw it out, don't throw it out directly in the garbage. You throw it out, in a bag, or if it's in a container, in the container. So, what an example of tashmishe mitzvah? Tzitzis, the mantle of a sefer Torah, tefillin, or a sefer Torah.
The mantle of a sefer Torah. B.
That's tashmishe mitzvah. The sefer Torah has Hashem's name in it.
No, he said actually the mantle of the sefer Torah.
You said the mantle of a sefer Torah.
Yeah, that's what I said.
So that's a tashmish of a mitzvah, okay?
Yeah.
What is example of tashmish kedusha? An object used for kedusha. Kedusha means that you have Hashem's name. Tzitzis, lulav and esrog, tefillin, or a shul?
Tefillin.
Tefillin, very good. According to halacha, what should you do with your lulav when the time for the mitzvah is done? You should burn it with the chametz.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want within reason, meaning you can't use it to start to become a broom in your house. You put it on top of the Aron Kodesh, or you save it for sweeping the house for Shabbos.
Well, burn it with the chametz. But again,
That's according to halacha, not according to the minhag.
whatever he wants within reason.
So you say whatever you want within reason.
Yeah.
Throw it out, not directly. So let's see what we got.
Even though I really like actually to burn it with the chametz is my preferred.
Let's view our score. We got 70. Let's see what ones we have to get. What should be done with the money received from the shul? The correct answer is to buy an Aron Kodesh. Let's see the next one. If one sold a shul with approval of the town elders and council, what could you do? And the answer is whatever you want, because it was done with public approval.
I was thinking maybe that the only thing is it really anything you want?
I mean, besides for 4 things, within reason. Besides for a bathhouse and a tannery and anything like that. A house of idol worship. What a nightclub. What is an example of a tashmish mitzvah? And something which is used for a mitzvah, which doesn't have Hashem's name. So we gave the answer, the mantle of a sefer Torah, but the mantle of a sefer Torah is around the Torah, which has Hashem's name. So the correct answer is tzitzis. Tzitzis, you could wear it with you when you go into the bathroom. So when you throw it out, you don't have to put it into shemus. A talis you wear with you for davening, that you have to put into shemus.
I was just thinking that it's like, here we have actually a talis katan, right? But the thing is, you also have actually or like someone can have actually Mickey Mouse, and you can have actually the tzitzis. So there it's like you're just simply fulfilling the mitzvah that if you have a 4-quarter Mickey Mouse shirt, you're
correct.
Have tzitzis on it.
But here.
But
We're middle, so if
We were talking earlier about using tzitzis as a bookmark. Okay, so that it seems to indicate it does have some sort of
Sanctity.
sanctity, and this says that it does not.
Right. So the question is, what type of sanctity? Is it talking about tzitzis from Metalis Katan or tzitzis from Metalis Gadol? The tzitzis from Metalis Gadol will definitely have that sanctity, and tzitzis from Metalis Katan doesn't necessarily have that sanctity in the same sense, even though it's used for a mitzvah. If it would have that sanctity, you'd have to take it off before going to the bathroom.
And
Like you take off your gartel, because gartel is something specific for davening. You take off your kittel on Yom Kippur, but you don't have to take off your talis katan. Talis gadol is something more holy.
Later than that.
What's in there? Tamid. Okay. Let's continue with the Gemara, or the very end of Daf Chav Vav Amud Beis, really 27a. We had the two opinions. Could you take a shul and make it into a base medrash, a house of study? Take a house of study and make it into a shul.
So then the shul is actually holier than houses.
We had two opinions, right? And the two opinions were, one is tadir, one is you're there the whole day, and one is that you mention Hashem's name. You say Yiskad Lav Yiskad Shmei Rabba,
Yeah.
right? Ma'aseh Gadol Talmud Gadol. What's greater, right? To learn Torah to the Talmud. And the conclusion we came to was that a study, a base medrash, is holier than a base knesses than a shul. That's halacha that we came to. The Hilchasa, Yeshua ben Levi says, the very last line on the page.
Does we pass it that way, or?
Amar Rav Acha, yes, we passed in that way. We brought this fasemes. Nowadays, to get around any type of potential issues, there's a big loophole which you could do, which is when you first dedicate the place, you say, I'm making it conditionally that it can be changed for anything. And then it could even become a non-shul afterwards. Like a Chabad house, for example, right? You could use it to make it a shul, and then you could use it to have a gym for the kids, and then you could use it to make a big Purim party, and then you could use it for a bar mitzvah, and then you could use it again for having a base medrash.
I mean, isn't Rabbi Weinstein's house also a Chabad house?
Correct. Yeah. Right.
I remember when they were adding on the addition to yeshiva,
Yeah.
they were very specific to call it a multi-purpose room, as opposed to,
for sure. Yeah, and it was Montreal in the yeshiva. I'm not sure what's today. Maybe Montreal already renovated, but when I was there, the big shul on Shabbos was a gym, and they had the Aron Kodesh wasn't a big Aron Kodesh, and they had a little small mechitza in front of the Aron Kodesh, and the kids were playing ball, and was banging against the mechitza, and the Aron Kodesh, right?
Okay.
Still there like that. Let's go into a little bit of Yerushalayim. May be built very, very soon, and Yerushalayim is now on the news quite a lot. So the kedusha of a shul is very great. We learned you cannot destroy a shul. Even if you have in mind to build another shul, the next shul already has to be built before destroying the old shul. How could Hashem destroy Yerushalayim? How could he destroy the holy temple? And even more than that, in Yerushalayim, we're going to learn now, you had hundreds of batei medrash, hundreds of houses of study where people sat and learned Torah the whole day and the whole night. You had people, beautiful, like Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, who sat and learned Torah the entire day. So Darish Bar Kapara, Jerusalem divided. That's what we're going to learn about. What is greater? Kedusha of the holiness of a beis medrash, the holiness of a beis knesses, a shul or a house of study. Says Bar Kapara, Mai dichsiv. What is the meaning of that which is written in Melachim by the destruction of the first Beis Hamikdash? And it states, Vayisraif as Beis Hashem. It says, and they burned the house of Hashem. I think we have. It says, on the 7th day of Nebuchadnezzar came, he entered Yerushalayim, and he burned 3 different things. What are the three things over here? Number one is Beis Hashem, the house of Hashem, which is the Beis HaMikdash. Number two is Beis HaMelech, and the king's house, which is the royal palaces. Number three, that's called Bat Yerushalayim, all the houses of Yerushalayim. Number four, that's called Beis Gadol Saraf Ve'esh, and every great house in Yerushalayim, he burned in a fire. He destroyed the entire city. And he took everyone, he destroyed the Beis HaMikdash, and he took everyone as slaves. So what is the meaning of this pasuk? What are these different divisions? So he goes, Beis Hashem, the house of God that Nebuchadnezzar destroyed. Zeh, Beis HaMikdash. This is the holy temple that Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Bavel, destroyed. Beis HaMelech, he destroyed the house of the king. Elu Palterin Shel Melech. These are the king's palaces, and very shortly we'll show you a little clip where we could see it visualized. It's called Bata Yerushalayim, and then afterwards it says Nebuchadnezzar destroyed all the houses of Yerushalayim. Kimashman, that's like it sounds. He destroyed every house in Yerushalayim. We have enemies doing the same thing to us today in the Holy Land, trying to destroy every single Jewish house. And then it says Nebuchadnezzar destroyed every big house, every house of greatness. What is a house of greatness? Who is it referring to? Who's great? Does it mean you have great people living in the house? Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shiur ben Levi. Rabbi Yochanan and Shiur ben Levi, each of them have an opinion. What does it mean, a big house, a great house? Chad Amar, one opinion says, Makom shemegadlin b'Torah, a great house that Nebuchadnezzar destroyed is referring to a house where the house is made great because people learn Torah there. The Chad Amar, and one say, Makom shemegadlin b'Tfilah. The house is great because it's a house where you have a great prayer. We have a lot of prayer. They make prayer great. How do you make prayer great again? Growth. There's different ways you can make prayer great again. If it's 27A1, if you have it here. Torah, we understand, is great. It says Yagla Torah v'yadir. Yagla Torah means make Torah great v'yadir, make it beautiful. As much Torah as we learn, there's more to learn. As deep as you learn, is another layer of depth in Torah. So that's Torah is considered to be davar gadol, a big thing. Tefillah, davening, could also considered to be a big thing. How is tefillah a large thing, a great thing? What do you say during davening? You can only say when you have a minyan. Yiskadal v'yiskadash shmei rabba. Yiskadal means
should be made great.
Hashem's name should be made great. May Shmei Rabbah, his great name. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach la'alam. May Hashem's name be blessed forever. So the idea of a Beis HaKnesses, a house of where you daven, is you're gathering together to make Hashem's name great. There's a Masai Gadol Kashu Be'ir Lekenu, right? Gadol Hashem Hu Be'ir Lekenu. Hashem is great. When is he great? When he's Be'ir Lekenu in his place of Lekenu, place where Hashem is made great. Ben Ish Chai writes, in a shul, you also need 10 people, which is a minyan. It's called Tfilas Rabim. And the tefillah itself becomes longer. Gadol means big. The tefillah, instead of when you daven at home, how long does it take you?
Much faster.
Much faster, unless you get distracted in the middle.
Yeah.
And you start cooking yourself a breakfast in the middle of davening. But otherwise, if you're davening, of course, davening is much greater. It's much longer. When you gather many people together, also your tefillah is accepted by Hashem. You have Chazaras Hashatz. And Chazaras Hashatz is even greater than Silent Shemana Esrei, and hence you add so many additions, like Brechas Kohanim, etc. So this is what it means. This is why he would say that a Bayis Gadol, a big house, is a house of davening. House of learning, of course. Yagel Torah v'yadir. It's interesting, the Ben Ish Chai also adds, if you look at this pasuk, you look at the verse, the order is very exact. First he says that Nebuchadnezzar, the first thing he burnt was he burned the house of Hashem, the house of the king, the house of Yerushalayim, and the Beis Medrash. It says that if Jews are learning Torah, their enemies cannot rule over them. David HaMelech, when he was learning Torah, was not able to be killed by the Malach HaMavis. So the king could not have started off trying to destroy the Batei Medrash because he wouldn't have been successful. Even in the Holocaust, when the whole Slovakian Hungarian Jewry was deported, was sent to Auschwitz and ghettos, and they only left one place around called the Nitra Yeshiva, Michal Ber Weiss Mandel. You see it even in contemporary times. Torah is what protects people, right? What's protecting the Jewish people in the land of Eretz Yisrael now? People sitting and learning Torah. So if Nebuchadnezzar would start off with a Bayis Gadol trying to destroy the house, the Batei Medrash, he wouldn't have been successful. So first, he destroyed Beis Hashem, the house of Hashem. Then afterwards, he destroyed all the houses of the kings and the people in the city. Once there's no people to learn Torah, then he could destroy the Batei Medrash. Also, he destroyed the Beis HaMikdash because he didn't want people to daven, because davening could also get rid of a bad decree. So this is a place where Torah and Tefillah is great. Manda Amar Torah, the opinion which says that a Bayis Gadol, a great house, is called Torah, Dichsiv, because it says in the pasuk, Hashem chafes l'man sidkai, Yagdil Torah v'yadir. Says Hashem was pleased for the sake of his righteousness, Yagdil Torah v'yadir, to make Torah great and glorious. So Torah is called Gadol, called great, because through learning Torah, through learning a Beis Medrash, you make Hashem's name great. Manda Amar Tefillah, and the opinion which says that a Bayis Gadol, a large house which Nebuchadnezzar destroyed, was a Beis Knesses, a house of davening. Tichsiv, the reason is because it says in a pasuk in Yeshaya, Saprana Hagdoilas Asher Asa Elisha. The king Yehoram, remember if he's a good king or a not good king?
Who is he the son of?
Achav.
Son of Achav?
No,
he was a wicked king.
Exactly. And so Elisha was a prophet of Hashem, a Talmud of Eliyahu Navi. He had a attendant, a Talmud. His name was Gehazi. Gehazi was a very, you could say, self-endearing person, someone who wanted to make himself great, to become wealthy. And he was Elisha. He only connected himself to Elisha because he wanted to make himself great. He thought by connecting to Elisha, he'll become great. So the story how Elisha would go to a Shunamis woman, who would pass by the house, and she made for him a special room in the house, a bed, a chair, a table. He could learn, a lamp. And Ira HaKoyin, Shalom Aleichem.
Welcome, Shalom.
He just changed your name to executive producer.
Right.
Let's see.
Did you tell Bob Minsky that made a special announcement on his birthday the other day, and he was nowhere to be found?
Really?
Remember? How could you forget? Came to the class.
I was looking for a nice background. I'm sure you'll find one soon.
It's on its way. It's on its way. Keep watching your mailbox.
You make it exciting for everyone. So you remember Meir Cohen, Olav Shalom. He's always with Yagdil Torah v'yadir. So Elisha, it takes a court for a man to admit his wife is wrong.
Oh, that's an old one. You read that last week.
It is a very brave man.
that was last week, so I have to put up a new one. Sorry. I'll get there.
You get there. Okay, we'll continue, and when you get there, we'll
okay.
To see. The woman had a son. His name was Yonah.
Yeah.
Later on, he became a Navi, but one day he passed away. He was sick in the field. He passed away, and she went to Elisha, and Elisha came and did Tchias HaMesim. He brought the boy. He passed away. Brought him back to life.
With the first CPR.
With the first CPR, correct. Yehoram the king asked Gehazi. Gehazi was the attendant of Elisha, who Elisha first sent in order to bring the boy back to life, and gave him very specific instructions, and he did not listen to the instructions of Elisha. Elisha had to come himself. So Gehazi is telling Yehoram, the king, everything that Elisha did, how he brought to life the child who passed away. Saprin Ali Agdoilas Asher Asa Elisha. Tell me about the great things Elisha did. So the Torah calls the things that Elisha did great. He brought the child back to life. How did he bring the child back to life? The Elisha the Avid, Berachamehu the Avid. And Elisha brought the child back to life through his prayers. So we see that prayer is called Gedula. It's called something great. As it says over there in Navi, Elisha came into the room where the child passed away, and he closed the door and he prayed to Hashem. Then he went and put his mouth on his mouth and his arms on his arms and did CPR and brought the child back to life. But Elisha first closed the door and first davened to Hashem. There's a question that Chaim Pfeffer asks on this. It says, how do you know Elisha brought the child back to life? Through what does it say, Ira? Telling us all this excitement about the eclipse seems, can't see it, shady to me. That's a good one.
Okay.
Thank you. How do you know that Elisha brought the child back to life through prayer, through davening? Maybe he used what's called shemus, a Kabbalah, knowing the names of Hashem. And we're bringing a halacha from this, that a bias, a practical halacha is that many opinions hold that a house of davening is greater than a house of learning because it's called Gadol in the story of Elisha.
Who asked the question?
Sam Sefer.
Oh.
So how do you know that? From where do we see that the child was brought back to life through tefillah? Maybe it was with the power of his shemus, knowing the names of Hashem. We see many different stories. We see in Shas and Sanhedrin that there's different Amirayim that through names of Hashem, they brought beings into existence.
Sefer Yetzirah is actually mentioned in the Gemara.
Correct. It says in Mesechta Sanhedrin about Sefer Yetzirah, Erev Shabbos, they would make a fat calf, 3 years old, out of names of Hashem. They created people. We know Maral Pra created a person through Sefer Yetzirah. It says the father, Shmuel, came to his house miraculously from very far away through names of Hashem, and Shmuel was born from there. So how do you know that Elisha brought the child back to life through prayer, and then hence halacha we're learning, as opposed to bringing it back from the names of Hashem? And we do see that we see that Shemus, Sefer Yetzirah, is called Gadol, it's called great, because it says in Mesechta Sukkah that Davar Gadol, a big thing, is Meiser Merkava, secrets of the Torah. And the Davar Katan, a small thing, is Abaya Verava, the Shas, the Gemara, Halacha.
That's a small thing.
And the big thing is Meiser Merkava, Kabbalah. So maybe the Gadol, the greatness of Elisha, was that he was able to use the names of Hashem to bring the child back to life. So the Gemara answers, so Chaim Sefer answers another Gemara. He brings 4 different Gemaras, 3 in the question, 1 in the answer. He says, the Gemara Mesechta Kiddushin says that the names of Hashem are only given over to someone who is humble, who is modest, and additionally, Yerushalmi adds that he does not take anything from anybody, never asks anybody to do anything for him, never takes a favor from anybody. And the Gemara in Mesechta Bracha says that if somebody wants to have benefit from this world, he should try following Elisha, which he had the minimum. He had a bed to lay on and he had a lamp. That's all he needed. So Elisha did have benefit from others and from this world. The woman made him a room where he could stay. So therefore, being that Elisha was somebody who did have benefit from others, even in the most minimal way, therefore the shemus were not given over to him, the names of Hashem, and therefore he brought the child back to life, had to have been through tefillah, through prayer. From there you learn halacha. What is a bayis gadol? What is a big house? A house shemegadlin by tefillah. House where you daven. And the Rebbe would bring this down, I don't know, dozens, or maybe even hundreds, but many, many, many times when describing 770, he used both words, Bayish and Gadlin by Torah, Bayish and Gadlin by Tefillah. A house where you make Tefillah great, a house where you make Torah great. Because of there, you daven over there, plus you have a base in Red, so people learn over there. But more importantly, the Rebbe davens there, and the Rebbe says Torah there. So that's what makes a place great. And he called 770 with this name many, 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 many times. The Bayishim Gadlin by Tefillah, Torah Bayishim Gadlin by Tefillah. Concludes the Gemara to Stayim. The Yeshua ben Levi the Amar Makom Shagadlin by Torah. Yeshua ben Levi is the one that he says a Bayis Gadol, a great thing is a house, a Beis Medrash, a house of study. And Amar Yeshua ben Levi, as Yeshua ben Levi says, Beis HaKnesses muter la'asosei Beis HaMedrash. You're allowed to turn a shul where you daven into a study hall where people learn Torah. So therefore, Yeshua ben Levi, as we said earlier, he says there's two opinions. We don't know which one said what. One was Rabbi Yochanan and one is Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. One said that a gadol, a great house, which Nebuchadnezzar destroyed, is a house of Torah. One says it's a house of Tefillah. Comes out that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was the one who said that a bayis gadol, a great house, is the one where you learn Torah. Shema Mina, from here it's a proof that what is considered to be a bayis gadol, a big house is a bayis from Gadol by Torah, a house where you learn Torah, and that is considered to be the greatest house.
Megadlin means where you learn? No.
Megadlin means where you make great.
You make great.
Which means Yagl Torah v'Yader, one who learns Torah more and more, because you have pilpulim, questions, answers, you have chidushim. That says Megadlin by Torah. According to this is an interesting question that comes up. We had two opinions, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi and Rabbi Yochanan. One said that a great house is a house of Torah, and what was that? Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. So it follows, Rabbi Yochanan is one who says that the greater was greater than a house of study, a house of prayer.
Yeah.
What's the question? Because Rabbi Yochanan says that people who are like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who's Teirasan Uminasan.
Okay, I have to go. Sorry.
Yeah, Shabbat Slacha, an appointment. Right, let's connect this to Lag Baimer. Says Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who was Teirasan Uminasan, who learns Torah. Rabbi Yochanan says, right? Friends which are learning Torah do not stop to daven. They could stop to say Shema as it's a mitzvah, but they don't stop to daven. And that's halacha. Says Rabbi Yochanan, this is Lo Shanu El Kagoyin Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai v'Chaveirav Shnei Uminasan. The people which don't stop for davening because they're learning Torah is people like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his colleagues, because Torah is their trade. Torah was something that would be occupied all the time. But people like us, which anyways interrupt our Torah learning for some other reasons, we make a pause and we stop learning in order to daven and in order to say Kriya Shema. Now, Rabbi Yochanan in our Gemara over here just said that what is that greater house? A house of tefillah, a house of prayer. And Rabbi Yochanan over there in Mesechta Shabbos says that what's greater, learning Torah or davening? He said learning Torah is greater. Hence, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai does not interrupt.
Yeah.
So it's a contradiction based on this on Rabbi Yochanan. So there's two parts of davening. One part of davening is praising Hashem. One part of davening is asking what you need. So when they don't interrupt for davening, they don't interrupt to ask for their own needs. More important, they should learn Torah than ask for their own needs, because their own needs are Torah. They're people sit and learn Torah, but to praise Hashem, that is according to Rebbe more important than davening. Okay, we'll have a little intermission over here. I just wanted to bring up some maps of Yerushalayim. We said Yerushalayim divided into four different parts. Well, you had the house of Hashem, you had the house of the king, and then the house of the rest of the people, or the great houses. So if you see over here, this is from Bayesheni, the second Beis HaMikdash, the second temple. You have this is a picture is not so clear, but we'll have a video make it more clear. You see over here, during the times of second Beis Hamikdash, there were different groups in Yerushalayim, in the old city. And although it was a rebellion against the Romans, it was much more tragic, was a Jewish civil war between themselves that took place. And that was a lot worse than the war against the Romans. The Chachamim, the sages, did not want to make a war against the Romans. They said, let's make peace. But there were Biryonim. Biryonim is the Jewish mafia, you could say. And among them, there were many different groups, and they all fought with each other. And they used to go from town to town, these Biryonim, and literally destroy Jewish towns, kill people. It was a terrible thing. And they were the ones who made the rebellion, the revolt against the Romans. And eventually the Romans came and they sequestered all of them back in the city of Yerushalayim. And so you had three different areas of the Biryonim in Yerushalayim. You had one area over here, which was, the name is John of the Giskoda. He was a Jewish person, but he took a Roman name. He was actually from Josephus. He was one of his enemies because he joined a different group of Biryonim. You had Shimon ben Elazar. He was the one who was inside the area of the Beis Hamikdash. And then over here, in the general area of the general Yerushalayim, there was, I'll see in a moment. Let's just, if we could share over here this, I'll share this video. Maybe hopefully it'll make it a little more clear. Let's make it full screen. I'll make myself small. Let me just fast forward a little bit.
This is the day in which Jews around the world commemorate the loss of both.
Yeah, Henry, you know him?
No.
Yeah.
So the Jews actually had some form of government, but it was entirely dependent on Rome. And Agrippa II was simply a toady to Titus, and followed the war.
Make this large. Not sure what's.
Was definitely on the Roman side, despite the fact that Jews were being killed all over Israel. But more significant than the fact that there was kind of a nominal Jewish leadership was the fact that there were multiple rebel groups active in Israel, and they were attacking each other. This was a situation where you had the so-called zealots, called the Biryonim in Hebrew in the Talmud, who are literally attacking other Jewish settlements. Ultimately, they're all going to find themselves in the fortified city of Jerusalem. Three major groups shown here in this particular schematic, which actually only shows it at one particular point in time because there were, changing allegiances between these groups. Elazar ben Shimon, John of Giscala, who happened to be an extreme rival to Josephus, and the ferocious Shimon bar Gioria, all held.
Yeah, but that's a general idea. I think that's enough of this.
Held different parts of the city of Jerusalem and the Temple Mount and even the sanctuary itself. They hated each other so much, they fought with each other so much that an incredible act of, communal stupidity, the zealots burned down each other's grain stores. And since they knew that Vespasian was on his way and the siege was inevitable, this was absolutely disastrous for the future Jewish war effort and virtually guaranteed that Vespasian would ultimately break the resilience of the rebels and take Jerusalem. And that.
So each of these areas, one is the area right up. So you have the area of the Beis Hamikdash called Beis Hashem. This area right down here called the gates, that was the area of royalty. It's called Beis HaMelech. And this area over here, the Shimon bar Gioria's area, that was the area of the people of the city.
What does Shiur mean?
Kiera, I'm not sure. Kiera is a lion, I think.
I see, because I was wondering whether maybe in any case actually you being descended from a gear, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. So we could we could X out all these tabs over here of the old city of Yerushalayim, upper city, lower city. But this is what it means in different areas of Yerushalayim. Okay. Going to have a little bit of I said we're going to start a mimer called Veyadaata Moskva. Called Veyadaata Moscow. Not because it talks about Moscow, but rather because it was said in the city of Moscow in the year 96 rather. Taf Reish Nun Zayin. Friedrich Rebbe then was 16 years old. The Rebbe Rashab then was 37 years old. Because of his health at that time, the Rebbe Rashab had to leave the Rebbe Rashab had to leave Lubavitch, and he went to Moscow for health reasons. Together with his Rebbetzin. Now this is before the Shiur of Tamar Tmim was made. The Rebbe Rashab was a Rebbe already at this point for 13 years. He only officially accepted the leadership of Chabad only about 5 years before this. And he said a famous mimer there called Veyadaata Moskva, Veyadaata from the mimer of Veyadaata from the city of Moscow. He was in the city of Moscow for several months now. Now, back then, the capital of Russia was not Moscow, like it is now, and during communism. Rather, the capital was Petersburg. And Moscow was the second to biggest city. It was the biggest city. It was a biggest city when it came to commerce till today. But it was the second biggest, but it wasn't the most important city in Russia. The most important city was Petersburg in the far north.
Sometimes you have actually these first countries where you have officially a city as the capital, but the real administration is in another city. So you had Berlin, and then you had another city is the actual thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So the Rebbe, the Friedrich Rebbe writes and discussing. He's 16 years old then. He got married that summer, Tafresh Nun Zayin. So he's writing and discussing in Elul, he got married, right after he turned 17. He's writing and discussing everything that happened over that trip in Moscow. Now, Moscow back then, as a Jew, you couldn't just live in Moscow. Similar to the way it was under communism, in order to live in a big city, you had to have a permit to live in that city. Otherwise, you were banished away. Now, the Jews in Russia were only allowed to live in a certain area called the Tchum HaMoshav, Pale of Settlement. And Lubavitch was in the Pale of Settlement, but Moscow and Leningrad and Petersburg, all these cities were outside of the Pale of Settlement. They did not want Jews settling in most of Russia. Now, being that the Friedrich Rebbe came from the family of the Alter Rebbe as a direct descendant, they were given special privileges, including allowing to be even in cities where Jews were not allowed to be. In Moscow, there were a number of Hasidim, a sizable number. Some had a permit to live in the city. Many of them did not have a permit to live in the city of Moscow. And they would try not being seen in the streets too much. If they're stopped, any Jew who was seen on the street was always stopped, asked, where's your papers? And if they weren't, they were arrested. They were punished. And at this point, the Rebbe Rashab, he said several Amorim during that time. He was here for Tes Kislev, Yutes Kislev. Said several very important Mamarim. There was a very wealthy family of Hasidim, whose last name was Manasan, who they owned several houses and buildings in Moscow, besides sort of their other businesses. And the Rebbe Rashab was there, and many, many Hasidim from the whole city came to Moscow to be with the Rebbe Rashab. And this Chassid Manasan gave his house, and he gave meals to everyone who came. And the Rebbe Rashab at one point said how there's nothing to be nispel from it, saying if you have a permit, you don't have a permit. These are all things from this world, but you should know that really there's nothing but Hashem. And he said the Maimer Veyadaata Moskva, to know. It's very important to know that there's nothing but Hashem. And the Frierdiker Rebbe describes many of the beautiful sichos that the Rebbe Rashab said. Now, this Maimer was one of the Maimarim, which Rebbe Rashab would say every couple of years. All the Rebbes had a special Maimer that they would say every few years in order to purify the ear, just in order to bring holiness down to the world. This Maimer Veyadaata Moskva was one of them. The Maimer Veyadaata Moskva is very fundamental. It's one of the first Maimarim that people who are learning Chassidus, after they learn Tanya and start learning a little deeper, one of the first Maimarim they learn is the Maimer of Veyadaata Moskva, which talks about the idea of Einay Milvada is nothing but Hashem. In addition, also we learn over there about the idea, the difference of Shem Havaya, Shem Elikim, the name of Yudkei Vavkei, and the name of Elikim. And we see how ultimately everything in the world is only created only in order to serve the Eibishter and to purify the world. And this was one of the Maimarim that the Rebbe Rashab said. And seemingly he felt that in Moscow they needed to have the Taras Ha'aver, the purity of the ear then. And the Rebbe has several Maimarim based on Veyadaata Moskva. But this is one of the first Maimarim because it's a very fundamental concept. And this concept is the basis of a lot of what's in Chassidus. How could you have Hashem who's unlimited, which is represented by Shem Havaya, and then how could you have Shem Elikim? You have a world which seemingly is going against Hashem, and you say Einay Milvadai, Einay, there's nothing but Hashem, and that's what the idea of Veyadaata Hayoyim you should know today. V'ashavoisel levavecha, take it to heart. Ki Havayu Elikim, Havaya Zikei Vavkei is Elikim. So we're going to learn it with Rabbi Vigler's commentary, where somehow he takes this Maimer and he makes a beautiful title. How could good things happen, bad things happen to good people? And so, but you can understand it based on all the idea of this Maimer, and he divides it into 30 different lessons. So we're going to go according to his rendering of the Maimer. Okay, thank you for joining, everybody. Thank you, Rebbe.